All right, welcome to Love and War podcast. I'm Marquis. This right here is my brother. He's actually married to my youngest sister, my baby sister. And the way that they got together, I'm sure you'll explain that. But the way that I became aware of him is of you. It's very interesting. And the way it happened was crazy. So this is years ago. I'm coming out to New York to meet with Kanye West. And at the same time that I'm coming to meet Kanye, you lived in New Jersey. We had never met each other yet. And you was like a kid. Like you was kind of like, you was a lot younger.
Yeah.
And Mahmoud Ahmadinejad from Iran was coming to Jersey, and he was going to be meeting with the minister. And so there was a detail that was happening at the same time. So while I'm in New York to meet Kanye, I head to New Jersey, and a part of the detail and everything that was, coming together, there was this young brother who was like, to me appeared to be like the front man, like of just, out of a lot of the brothers that I saw. And ultimately I ended up, we ended up meeting, being a part of this detail, and just pretty much we just mixed well. Like it was a real, like, it was just like, man, it was like one of the coolest, most on point, militant, individuals, like a extremely trained individual. So years later, my youngest sister, she becomes interested in this brother. And we're just hearing about his name, all this stuff. And, we just sitting there like, all right, when we going to see this clown? You know what I mean? So we're like really like just waiting. And my sister knew that at the time, my father, hadn't been around for some years. So everything would eventually have to run through me as the oldest son. And we took this very, very serious. So, she knows how to move. She knows what to do. We trust her. She one day gives me this call about this guy named Rab. So I'm thinking like some Robert, some guy that I'm looking for. So finally she hits me up, and my sister's with the function. She's like, I want you to give him the 3rd degree. I want you to grill him. Let him know we got animals. So I'm like, all right, we on him. Let's get him. So she gives me the number. I go into my phone, and come to find out, I already got the number. I've been thinking it's a guy named Rob, but your name is Rab, like R-A-B. So the number pulls up in my phone. Back then, I used to leave notes in my phone of individuals so that I can remember who they were, because you're just always meeting people. And I'm reading my notes from previous years about this individual who I'm about to grill, but I'm reading it like this is one of the most solid individuals. I'm just talking to myself about how great this individual is, and I go, wait a minute. The guy that my sister's interested in is the young brother out of Jersey? So when I called, we hadn't talked in years. I couldn't even be mad. Like, I just was like, man, what's up? And we ended up talking again after a long time. My sister was so mad at me. She's like, Marquis, I thought you was going to. I said, nah, you make good choices. I don't know what to say. When for me, it's like when Allah speaks and, he makes it clear, then my job was to come in and inspect. And I already had inspected. Before this man had motive, before anything was, happening like that, I had already met him. And that was just that was huge for me. So, I just wanted to introduce my brother, Rab Muhammad, from out of New Jersey. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I appreciate being on the podcast.
Yeah, definitely, man. So how's it been? How's it been being with my little crazy sister, man?
Man, it's been a blessing, bro. It's been a blessing. We just celebrated 7 years.
Come on.
Yeah, thank a lot much. So it's been a blessing. I just was talking to, I forgot who I was talking to, but just about the ups and downs of a relationship. But the crazy thing is, I can't really say it's been too many downs. Honestly, even if you looked at us during times where we didn't always have the money or whatever, it didn't feel like a down to me.
Right.
So I don't know if it's coming in year 8, but right now, 7 years in, it's been
people always would say like the first year is gonna be the worst year, and it's not the other. I mean, they said the honeymoon period will be over and all that. And me and Elan found ourselves like in the honeymoon period for like 5 years straight. Like we was really, and money went down, up and down.
What happened in the 6th year?
In the 6th year, I was like, I'm done. Like I went to go renegotiate the contract. No, I'm joking. But by then you it's just, you're aware of what's going on, and we started picking up more responsibilities with taking care of family members and all that kind of stuff. But for the most part, even going through, we're hitting 13, and literally it's like, it's been just great. But I didn't understand what people say about that first year. I do in counseling others, but man, when it's your friend, like, when it's somebody that you're dealing with and you really vibe with, then
I
it
think
isn't
that's
really
a big part of it.
Yeah.
A lot of people, we get into relationships for different reasons. Person may look good, but we're not compatible. I think that when two people are compatible and you have a good time together, then especially in that first year, you know, you have a good time, but I feel like all throughout the marriage is a good time. You know, you go through struggles just like, you know, friends go through struggles.
Right.
Sometimes you have an occasional time where you need to just walk and have a little space, but for the most part, it's a blessing. It's a blessing to be able to spend time with your friend. Who doesn't want to spend time with their best friend? So,
Right.
you know, I think, you know, I agree. I 100% agree with that. I think through these 7 years that we've experienced, and hopefully we'll look back at 13 years, you know, when we catch up to y'all, and say the same thing. But through these 7 years, we've enjoyed each other's company. I've enjoyed the ride, and you know, I don't, year 1, year 2, year 3, looking back on it, it was all the same. We enjoyed it.
And so you guys have 2 children now, 2 daughters.
Yep.
And she's pregnant right now.
Yep, one on the way.
Man, and you're gonna have your first son.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Yes,
How
yes.
critical was that?
It was critical. I think, you know, I would have been happy either way.
Mm-hmm.
I love my daughters and I love girls, and I embraced the girl dad thing, especially after Kobe, you know, made it popular.
Right.
Cool, I'm a girl dad. But, you know, I think we both wanted to kind of have the peace of mind that came with knowing, like, all right, we got a boy.
Right.
The next child is like, all right, you know, this is what it is. If we would have had 3 girls, then it would have been a lot more pressure to have a boy the next time, because then it's like, oh man, do we keep going? Do we stop? At what point do we stop? So, you know, more than anything, you know, just the peace of mind, you know, because you want to have it, you know, at least one of each.
Right.
You know, if we'd have had 2 boys, we'd have been looking for a girl. So,
Right. So it wasn't about the.
Yeah, I don't. It wasn't for me. It wasn't about that. For Aisha, my wife, it wasn't about that. So, you know, we just wanted to have that balance and experience what it's like to raise a boy. So,
And there's a lot going on for having girls now, because I know when I have my son and then I was going to have a girl, I had a whole plan on what I wanted. And then, you know, it's just like we plan God plans, and, you know, you got to rock with whatever God gives to you. And then having a daughter, looking at the way the world is, there's the good, there's the bad, but there's a lot more opportunity. There's a lot, you know, they're coming out, you know, and I'm not against it. Like, I like the idea that.
I'm against it a little bit.
I like that they have a voice.
Edit that out.
But yeah, you know, I wanted to say this though, and I think what was important about like getting you in front of the camera. A lot of people talk about how there's no good men out there, and there's no men who, you know, where's the married men who are this, or where are the men that are this and that. And because I have such a circle of individuals, of just a community of people that I know are like, it's just so many men, you know, because there's so many that I've started to recognize that a lot of the solid men, they're not online. They're usually not on a podcast. They're usually not, you know, fishing for attention. They're not looking to be seen or anything like that. They're usually putting their attention into their family. They're putting attention into their work, into trying to provide for their family. They're putting their attention into their children. And so I felt obligated, because I'm looking like someone like you. I'm like, Rob be low key. He be chilling, but y'all don't even realize a lot of these guys that y'all are asking about and that you don't think exist, or, you know, young guys who are really interested in our women, interested in black women, and really are, you know, holding it down and being loyal. They, you know, they're not attention seekers like that. They're not really looking from that point of view. So I thought it was important to be like, let's hear from, you know what I'm saying? Like, let's pull them out, because they're all, and you know, you can name just in your circle alone in Jersey. Then you go to New York. Then, you know, we got them in LA. Then, you know, we got them in Atlanta or Maryland, you know, and and wherever there's good, there's bad. So, you know, we understand that too, but I thought it was important. So you and Aisha, did you date or did you court?
We courted. And, you know, the difference is, when we established that we had the mutual interest in one another, we weren't looking to just have a good time.
Right.
You know, dating is like, oh yeah, let's go to the movies. Let's kick it. And, you know, you can go to the movies when you court, but the intention is what the difference is. So the intention was we wanted to be married. And so as we spent time with each other, we were questioning. You know, we were seeing each other in different circumstances and trying to figure out, you know, is this a person who I want to marry?
Right.
And that's really the way that a relationship should be.
Right.
Even if you know, a lot of our people aren't familiar with the term courtship. So you say, oh, this is my girlfriend, this is my boyfriend. But what's the goal in that relationship? I think the goal in any relationship like that is it should be to be married.
Right.
So when you're in that relationship, you should be taking that individual to court.
Right.
You should be questioning them. You should be dealing with the facts of the situation to find out, am I compatible with this person?
Right.
And I think that's the biggest, like we touched on earlier, the biggest issue and why a lot of relationships fail in the first year or 2 years or 3 years is because we aren't asking the right questions.
Right.
So you think that just because you look good and another person look good and y'all might make some cute babies, that, you know, this is the person who's going to be right for me.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you find out once y'all start living together that is not the case. But if you're properly courting, and if you're taking that person to court during that relationship period, then you're asking those questions. You know, you asking the questions that you're going to run into when you living with a person. You know, some people don't like to do certain things, or, you know, whatever. There's so many different circumstances. But I think if you're asking the right questions, then you'll end up with someone who you're compatible with. Yeah,
and I think I like the word you use, intention. And I think sometimes it's like, what's the plan here? You know what I'm saying? What's the goal? Like, we're coming to meet up with each other. It don't mean, oh, I met you, we're going to get married. But it's just that with the time that we're investing and with us trying to figure each other out, you know, within this, we're looking to see if we're compatible. But at the same token, if we are, and if we understand that, you know, you vibe with me, I vibe with you, however that circumstance is, not me and you ain't, you know, but however, you know, however that works out. But, so, you know, however that works out, you know that what my clear intention is for you. And I think that's the problem I don't like about the what they're doing with dating right now, because dating feels like marriage without insurance in a way. And what I'm, you know, it's like, okay,
that's a bar.
The one thing you can't take back is your time. And what I like about marriage is that it ensures your time. You know, it's like I could play with you for 10 years. And we know a woman's body isn't the same from 25 to 35 or from 35 to 45. So some people get scared about how sloppy a divorce could be. But if it's somebody who's really playing around with you, it's like, well, yeah, if I didn't have good intention, then at least if I've wasted so much of your time or took up so much of your time, there should be some law, there should be some level of insurance to make sure that, you know, you can never get the time back. Yeah. But you can at least make sure that you're insured in a way that, you know, you can receive some level of a benefit, you know, because people are liars out here and people will play around with you. And I see a lot of guys nowadays trying to play that, you know, play that thing like the paperwork and blah, blah, blah. You know, the same people who have social security numbers, same people who make sure they get deeds on their homes, same people who make sure they get driver license. But for an agreement that you're going to have for the rest of your life in a physical manifested world, you don't think it should be insured in some kind of way?
And my question is, you know, to that type of mindset is, why not?
Right.
You know, why not? Why? Because when you go into any relationship, you know, but especially something that you consider to be long term. Yeah. You're having children with someone, or you want to, you know, move in with someone, live with someone, but you don't want to have the paperwork. Right. You know, for what reason? You know, I was talking to one of my OGs when, you know, years ago, before I was even at an age where I was considering marriage. But he told me, he said, the worst thing you can do when you go into a marriage is have a plan B. Because whenever you go through any rocky situations, that plan B comes to your mind. Yeah, and you start thinking like, man, you know what? I could always just leave. You know, and a lot of times we're thinking that when we go into these relationships, you don't want to get the paperwork. Why? Because you don't really want to be locked in with this person. You don't want to have to go through the tribulations and the trials that life presents. And I think we do ourselves and our relationships a disservice when we step into them thinking, what if this doesn't work? Right. No, let's be prepared to go through it, especially if this is someone who we have courted properly. Right. And we are willing to do our part, then let's go in and be all in. You know, we have a problem in our culture where, as men, we think it's an issue to be committed to one person. So, you know, I agree. Yeah. I agree.
And then you think about it, a big part of that is making that plan, that decision of like, oh, for life. So that's not really easy sometimes. But what's crazy is people are afraid of the for life conversation. Then they go jump into somebody raw and create something that outlives their life. And it's just kind of like, okay, what's the, you know what I'm saying? You're making these contracts that's even deeper than a damn marriage, because you in here creating actual life and playing around. So why would you not ensure that life? And then with the way the world is right now, how, you know, things are so twisted up, I still can't find anything that meets the bar of there's a child who's made of two people who both love that child and who both love each other. There's not a stronger triangle. There's nothing that you're gonna, you know, and if you got what you believe as God and that higher power at the center of that, then Because, any of them could lose their mind. So that's why they all keep their focus on that higher power, that higher creation. And that helps them deal with each other. But right now, there's all these lifestyles, all this. There's nothing that meets the bar of just that, of family and what builds nation.
And I bear witness to it because, different people grow up in different ways. And how you're reared can inspire you in one way or another. There are some people whose fathers weren't around, and it inspires them to want to be around for their children because they see how they grew up. For me, I had a father who was just a solid father, and a husband.
Oh, they exist. Is he black?
They still around. He's black.
He's a black dude.
He's black.
He held your mom down too. Wow. Okay.
So my parents, they've been married 24 years. No, I'm sorry, 34 years.
Oh,
34 years.
He knocked out a whole 10 years.
Let me put some respect on that 34. So they've been married 34 years now. And growing up, I saw that dynamic of two parents. Me and all my siblings, we got the same mother, same father. And so I saw that dynamic, and my father was a wonderful example that it could be done.
Right.
And I didn't see him make any mistakes if he did. I didn't see, any big blowouts between him and my mother. If it happened, it may have, but I didn't see it. And I thank God that what I saw was a good example, a good enough example for me that it could be done.
So it still mattered that whether you know or not what's going on, that they still presented some level of a respectful image. Because nowadays everybody's so damn real, or they think they're real. You know what I'm saying? But it's just like, do we have any class? You know what I mean? And then back to what you said about what inspires you. It's funny because my story was different. On the other end of that, I got a solid father. You know what I mean? Who has had ups and downs, and his downs were the first pains that I felt in my life. You know what I mean? With just the pain he inflicted on my mother. But I also got to see him grow. You know what I mean? I also got to see him try to do his best to try to be better. But with that being said, they didn't work. So I went through all my teens without him. And my mother to me is she's so solid. You know how mom is. You know what I mean? And she's just so on point everywhere. So my inspiration was, kind of how you explained it, was on the other end of that. I wanted to be for somebody what I wanted for my mom. And it was just literally like, my mom deserved something. So if I could find a quality woman, like my father was able to find a quality woman, but if I could be able to give her what I always wanted my mom to have, and that pretty much set the presence and would help dictated how I approach marriage. And then what's funny is my practice, it was my sisters. It's crazy, but me having to honor them, me having to protect them, me having to defend them, me having to balance out for them, because I was going through all my differences in life, and then there'll be certain times where it's like, I could be harsh, and then I'll be like, they balanced me out so much. And I think parents got to understand, train your son's respect from in the house. Train your daughter's respect from in the house, but have them in the way they relate to each other. The way that your son should know how to respect women, how to protect women, how to be there for them, how to care for them based off of how they have to deal with their own sisters. Your sisters should know how to do the same for themselves, and they also should know how to protect the ones that protect them. And what I mean by that is my little sisters did such a good job at protecting me because I was so crazy about doing whatever. Me and my brothers were crazy about whatever, but they protected us by not constantly putting themselves in situations and circumstances that would lead to us always having to be in war. If we had to show up, it was like we're showing up because someone really is tripping here, because they knew like, wow, my brothers are here, so let me not have them in jail, because it wasn't, they've had us going in and out, and they've dealt with with some fools. So it's like, well, let me not be a part of that. And I gotta say thank you so much, Aisha, my little sister Aisha, and Ayana's the bigger sister, so Ayana, so there was 5 of us coming up together, even though I got an older brother, Rashad, who we were together when we were younger. But then at a certain point, shout out to big Rashad, man. That was my first hero in life, man. Seriously. But at a certain point, I had to take the reins as the oldest, and we had the 2 youngest sisters. He's married to the baby sister, but she had one over her, which is my little sister Ayana, who was just always, shout out to Ayana. Ayana put such an example for Aisha. It was crazy. But they're both different. Ayana didn't go to parties. She didn't go, Aisha did. Aisha was like, okay, I want to go to parties. So she didn't know. I was so crazy. I'd be on top of rooftops just like watching, you know what I'm saying? And then, because I'm just like, I don't know. it's when you grow up around guys, you be like, I don't know how y'all can get with any of them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, because it's it be the most nice, solid individuals. You know, you might be crazy. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? And let me give you this disclaimer. As of right now, Rob has been a special, great individual.
As of 26, 2020.
So I don't know what he'll be in 10 years. I don't know what I'd be in 2 years. So, you know, another thing is people think, you know, oh, people messed up or whatever, it's not the other. And then you go as, oh, so this whole thing meant nothing. You know, I don't know what's going to happen to you or what experiences you may go through that could change you. But for 7 years, my sister bear witness, you bear witness, every person around, your daughters, we bear witness that, you know, there's been a consistency. There's been a lot. And this is a man who's still growing. He's taking care of all his children, doing his job. He's heavy in his religion on the way that he works, the way that he moves. He's a huge in the community, not playing around. He trains men. As far as being an FOI, he's been a ranking soldier. He moved up to a higher position now, but a lot of his history was running as a first officer. And I want to break down what a first officer is in regards to lieutenants, but you know what it's like to have to deal with the psychology of men, how to train black men, how to deal with the ups and downs and the differences, to have to show up, them 3 o'clock calls where it's like, oh, someone that got shot. You know what I mean? You know you had those, you know, those kind of experiences where you've been dependent on from that regard. What is a first officer and how does that work within a structure? It's like in regards to a captain in the military.
So if I think that part of us as men trying to stay solid. Yeah. If I go back up and I think that it's these types of conversations.
Yeah.
Because you know, we are striving to stay on that straight path. And it's a struggle, but we have to keep out front what we're doing it for.
Right.
You know, because any of us could be solid today, and then under certain circumstances, we could fall off the horse. You know, but the goal is for us to keep each other strong and keep each other accountable as men. We talk to each other. Hey, brother, how your family doing? You know, okay, everything going good, praise be to Allah, you know, but the conversation, not just ignoring the fact that we're responsible to be solid as men. But to answer your question, you know, we have a military structure and it's important. You know, Marcus Garvey talked about the importance of black people being in an environment of themselves. And, you know, right now, that's what I think a lot of our people are lacking is that military structure. But we have a military structure, and in that military structure, you have a squad leader, you have a lieutenant, you have a first lieutenant, which is directly under the captain, then you have your captain. And of course, you have your minister as well. But the first lieutenant, his responsibility is to receive instructions from the captain and carry those instructions out. So you're the arm of action to a captain. It's not what I want to do as a first officer. It's the desires, the will, and aspirations of my captain. And I had a wonderful captain. My captain was Brother Rab Muhammad in Newark, New Jersey. And my goal was to always, whatever he wanted to see done, was to make it happen. You know, so if he wanted to see us increase in a certain area, whatever the area was, then my job was to inspire and motivate the lieutenants that were under my charge, who would inspire and motivate the brothers that were under their charge. And so that structure, you know, it taught me a lot because all of us are taught to be leaders. Don't be followers, be leaders. But the problem that a lot of us have is following instructions when it's time to follow instructions, because everybody wants to be a leader, but there's times where you got to follow a strong leader in order to even know how to be a leader. So as a first officer, I had to follow my captain. My captain give me instructions, and I got to carry that out without intermingling and mixing what I feel should be done in a certain situation. Because if I start changing the instructions, like Marcus Garvey said, to suit myself, then you could cause someone to get hurt. You know, you trying to do what you think should be done. No, I follow the instructions of the captain, and that don't make me less of a man to follow instructions. Which is another narrative I think that, you know, us as black men, we have to correct. Everybody should be a leader, but it's okay to follow at times, especially when your knowledge is limited. You know, it's okay. Everybody wants to be a teacher. But sometimes, and most times, you got to be a good student.
Yeah.
To a good teacher in order to know how to teach.
And lead your damn household. You're the leader of that. Everybody wants to lead everybody else, and you can't lead your own penis. So you know, so it's like
that's a bar.
But and what I like about the idea, and when you think about this, black men connected. You have this captain, you have this first officer, then you got these other lieutenants who are reporting to this first officer. These lieutenants all have men under their squads, and this could be carried out in any way. Now we're talking life here. This is not like, oh, you're just going to some war or something that's happening. Now it's literally like, you know, if something happens in one man's household, he's able to hit his lieutenant, who can reach out to the first officer. The captain gives the instruction, well, this is how we're going to move or how we're not going to move, an investigation, all this stuff. Why is this critical for the black community? When we think about protecting black women, when we think about, you know, the idea, if somebody's daughter's missing in this kind of structure, look at how many men that are ready to wake up, because we're all connected, we're all communicating. Why is this kind of structure important in regards to the black community?
I think it's important for more ways than we got time to mention. But for the example you gave, when you look at an issue like that, you know, a black girl goes missing, because that's a hot topic right now. You know, these things are happening. Black women are going missing. Our daughters are being kidnapped, trafficked. And when you have that system, it's good, yes, for communication. But it's also good for action, because when something comes down from the top and it gets pushed out through that communication, there's also action that's required. So you know, people go to work, but I think that in order to really benefit from a system like that, everyone has to be willing to submit themselves to that military protocol, to that military process. So as black people, when we can submit ourselves, I know we all got what we want to do, but when we can all submit our will to do the will of our superiors, in this particular example, and we're able to submit ourselves and follow instructions, then we can benefit from that type of military protocol. Whereas something happened to my family, we have that nervous system, to where, you know, Marquis feels the struggle. He feels, oh no, it's not just a black girl that went missing. That's my niece that went missing. You know, so that doesn't happen in a vacuum. All of us have to submit to treat each other how we want to be treated. In that military protocol. And when we submit to that type of mindset, then it's one nervous system. Something happens to your daughter, then I'm looking at it like, that's my daughter, that's my niece. You know, so we react a certain kind of way. But I don't want us to think that it just happens. You know, just because you're a part of this. You know, but when you actively are attached to this and you're submitting your mind and submitting and saying, look, I want to treat my brothers how I want to be treated, because there's no nervous system if I have to watch you around my wife. You know, if I got to watch you around my daughters, if we're not truly treating each other how we want to be treated. But when we submit our will and we become better and we're improving ourselves, then the nervous system is intact. And anywhere something happens to any of us, we feel it. And we feel it deeper than just being sympathetic to the situation. Oh, I sympathize that this black girl went missing. Oh, I'll put it on my page. But when you really are attached to that nervous system, then when this black girl goes missing, I'm out in the streets with my flashlight. I'm looking around. I'm driving around. I'm spinning the block, because I feel this is my daughter. This is my niece who went missing. You know, but it starts with all of us changing our mindset and how we view one another, treat each other how we want to be treated. This is not a nigga, this is my brother. And so when something happens to one of us, then we react a certain kind of way. And the military structure will just be to facilitate the information, but you won't necessarily have to tell me how to respond. Once I get that information, when we change our mindset and then we submit ourselves to that structure, then that structure will help us to be able to facilitate the information and move in one accord.
Love what you said that as far as military. And imagine this. You subscribe to Islam. There's all these different ideologies and understanding you know, they believe in this version. You go to this part of the country, they believe in this form. But then there's people who believe in Christianity and different sects of Christianity. Some people don't believe in God at all. But just imagine us as a people where we take a militant approach towards our communities, towards our girls, towards our wives, towards our women, there's nothing you can really do to us then. I mean, you really can't run up on us if we have a structure. And I think that's what I love about what you said, because you didn't just say, oh, if a Muslim girl is out, we feel this. You said if the black girl is out, we feel this. And of course, it shouldn't even be if it's just a black girl. You know, if a little girl is in danger, we understand that affects humanity. However, we know that when it's an all lives matter conversation, the little black girl ends up at the back of the bus. So who becomes structured for her? And what I like about the military, mindset, to be taught to walk on the outside of the sidewalk, to be taught to check on them when they're, at night, if they're supposed to be going home or they're driving alone. It's a way to be ahead of the curve. You can't talk, which everyone's talking, black women the most mistreated, misunderstood, unprotected. Oh, okay, so where we at? What we doing? And what I love is I surround myself with individuals who are about that life. And I don't care what you subscribe to as far as, your religion or whatever's not the other. What's your intention? What is your heart? What do you do? Because I done met some evil people in the nation. I done met some evil people in Christianity. I done met some evil people in Sunni Islam. I done met some evil people. And I've met good people across the board too. I just love how the nation comes together to the structure that carried through the 30s, 40s, and 50s. And I love the same thing with how Garvey moved.
And the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that the best religion is to do unto others as you would have done unto yourself.
Beautiful.
So regardless to whatever faith our people claim, as long as I'm treating you how I want to be treated, then we can get along in peace.
I don't see you on social media. What is that? Why aren't you really,
I'm just not on social media. I have a social media account. But, this is interesting because I just was reading from our dear sister Ava Muhammad, may Allah be pleased with her, and she was talking about thoughts being matter, thoughts, and with thoughts being matter takes up space. So we have to always be mindful of the thoughts that we entertain because it's taking up space in our minds, and being mindful of the type of thoughts that we entertain, right? So I think social media has a lot of benefits. It has a lot of benefits, but there's also a lot of garbage on social media, and all information is not good information. So there was a time where I was on social media a lot, just scrolling, and I found myself constantly opening the app, constantly looking on the Explore page, looking at this news outlet, that news outlet. I would check, sports highlights, but then every now and then I'd get this, thick model doing squats or something.
For no reason.
Yeah, and it's like, I would look, I'll scroll, and then I scroll back up, look again. And I'm just playing. But there would be those suggested posts.
Right.
Outside of that, just the drama that tends to unfold on social media. I just felt like I needed space from that. Yeah. And when I got away from it, I found my mind a little bit freer and a little bit clearer to be able to think about what I wanted to do, personally, make goals. My mind was working on different things once I detached from that. But it definitely seemed like for me personally, it was doing more harm than good. So that's one of the reasons why I don't get on, even though I do have the page, I have the ability to get on, but I had to detach myself from the negativity that was being suggested to me on the Explore page, because it's only so long you can look at, the women that's on social media and then not want to act on that, so I didn't even want to have a thought that took me in that direction, because once you think about it long enough, all it takes is space and opportunity.
Right. So he has a problem with thick model squatting. But real talk, it power suggestion.
Absolutely.
crazy because all your responsibilities in the community, moving the way you do, and you're thorough on the way you move as far as like the community and the protection of the people, and just the way that you even, you know, move with your captain, with your minister, everything, just how you are, like you live that life. And then you also have your full-time jobs. You're there for your daughters. You're there for your wife. You know what I'm saying? Now all of a sudden you decided to go back to school. You decided you're gonna be an attorney.
Yeah. So when I was growing up, I always said I wanted to be a lawyer. Mm-hmm. The one of the things that kept me from pursuing that was that I hated school. Right. I still ain't too fond of it, but at the time I'm like, man, I ain't trying to go to school for 8 years, college 8 years, you know, or however many years it was. So I did have some college already under my belt, mm-hmm. but I didn't, you know, go all the way through to getting my undergrad or anything like that. But during my hiatus of social media, just so happens I took some time off social media, and this is when I initially kind of, I would say, unplugged. Mm-hmm. And I was just thinking, and something, you know, inspired me to write out what I wanted my future to be. You know, not too distant future, I guess short to long term, medium term. Mm-hmm. And I said, you know, what do I want to do? And I thought about what I've always wanted to do, but there was something that prevented me from doing it. And so, you know, I looked at myself and I said, no, you know what? Let me keep my word to myself. Because I look back, and I'm 30 now. At the time that, you know, that I was thinking this, I was 28. But I looked back and said, okay, if I had started this journey 5 years ago, mm-hmm. the me of today would have thanked myself 5 years ago for getting started. Mm-hmm. So I said, well, why don't I just start now? Right. Because it's never too late to start. But I'm sure when I'm 40 years old, I will look back at my 28-year-old self and say, oh, yeah, you know, thank God I did it then. It wasn't too late. Right. But it always feels like it's too late at that time. It always feels like a mountain. It always feels like, man, I wish I did it yesterday. But today is a new day. And as long as Allah blessed me with a new day, then there's time. So, I looked at all of that, and then I wrote out, you know, a 7-year plan and said, you know, I want to go back to school. And it's a big mountain for me because I have to still finish my undergrad. Right. You know, it's not like I had the 4-year degree already and all I got to do is go to law school. You know, so I had to consider what I wanted to do for my undergrad and, you know, the plan. And I had my little big brother Rab Muhammad, who was just starting law school at the time. So, you know, I was able to kind of look at him go through the journey, the LSAT, and, you know, and getting into law school. And, you know, so it just fed my desire even more, seeing that I had a brother that was doing it. So that's another benefit of the brotherhood. And so this is another brother who I was watching do it, and it showed me that it was possible. I said, you know what, let me just get started. And it started with me just, you know, filling out the application, getting started, registering for my classes. And then when I actually got back on a campus, you know, it was another mountain, and, you know, just constantly trying to overcome the mountain that was in front of me. And now I look back and I just finished my first year straight back A's. In school. Yeah.
Straight.
And, 4.0.
He on. Yeah,
4.0 GPA. And, you know, I'm locked in. You know, think a lot much. And so I got a few more years to go, but hopefully we'll look back on this video in a few years and we'll be there.
Bro, man, you that man. And appreciate you jumping on this podcast and doing this. You know, we talk all the time. So I was just, man, we need to just throw a camera up and, you know, and just throw you in on the series because, man, you've been on point. I appreciate how you move with my sister. I was blessed to hand my sister off to another man. I know for some people that sounds very patriarchal. You live in the world you live in, but in the world we live in, men care about the women. You know what I mean? And so to have somebody who I could just go, man, you got it. She crazy. But you know, that's my baby sister, man. And she, you know, she came up through war. Yeah. And you know her wars were real. Like,
and I gotta thank a lot much for my wife, sister Aisha, because, you know, I wouldn't be here. I look back sometimes and realize like I was just completely imbalanced. So I thank a lot much for my wife and the wonderful children that she gave to me, the gift of life. So, you know, I think a lot much.
What better way to end it out? It's been Love and War podcast with my brother-in-law right here, Rob. You know what it is.